in this, and I think I just realized that my mic probably wasn't on. I'm guessing I was hearing myself in here, but I just realized I don't think my microphone was on. So that's a little strange. I apologize for that. For those of you tuned in, wondering where in the heck is the audio, now maybe you know. Maybe we do have audio now. So I think I've got the audio up. Anyway, what I was saying was, if the audio wasn't working, what I was saying was, um, I'm not going to be here next week. I'm going to be on vacation. I'm going to be in Nebraska for Christmas, spending time with family and all that kind of stuff. And so part of the reason I haven't been on as much, part of the reason I haven't been putting as much effort or time into all of this in the last couple of weeks is because I'm trying to find a job. It's an interesting world out there in radio. There just aren't a whole lot of jobs available. And so it's looking honestly like this is probably the end of my radio career. But I don't want to walk away from this. I enjoy doing this. I want to make sure that you all have a voice. And so I'm spending some time here on these various streaming platforms and trying to maintain an audience because I want to give you a voice. And like I said, send us a message. Texter says, I thought it was me. I couldn't hear you. Nope, it wasn't you. I'm an idiot. That's really what it was. I'm an idiot and didn't turn my microphone on. I'm not used to this. In the radio studio, I had buttons for everything and like physical buttons to turn on mics and stuff like that. Here, I have to click on stuff. I have to like look down here and look over here and click on that and all that kind of stuff. So I got to click on a bunch of stuff. So I think we got the audio up now and we got it up and running. Anyway, we do have some things to talk about. I want to. There's been a lot of discussion about the debt ceiling and the arguments in the House about this congressman or that congressman voting for or voting against. Of course, Chip Roy has been in the news as it relates to some of this stuff. And let me just say, I know folks are kind of upset with Chip Roy for not voting for this bill or whatever it is, the latest version of the continuing resolution. But let's not lose the plot here. Chip Roy is a solid conservative individual. That man has been a champion for liberty and conservatism for a long time and has a very, very good track record of standing for what is best for his constituents in Texas and the people of this country. So I will defend Chip Roy. Now, you don't have to like every single individual vote. You don't have to agree that this particular vote was the right one or the wrong one. But what you can't do is beat up Chip Roy for being some sort of rhino or non-conservative or Democrat sellout. You can't. You just can't. Chip Roy has been a great champion for conservatism and for liberty for quite some time. And so we got to, this is part of what's going on in the Republican Party right now. Yes, we need to support President Trump's agenda. If we are going to try and roll back some of the craziness and the nonsense, crazy woke, all of that stuff, yes, we got to support President Trump's agenda. But we've got to be careful that we don't end up in a circular firing squad and killing off all of the people that are doing the things that are necessary on the ground to make that happen. And Chip Roy has done a great job of that so far. Now, again, I'm not saying you have to agree that the decision he made this time around was the right one or him voting for or against or any of that was the right or the bad one. But what you cannot do is characterize Chip Roy as some sort of establishment rhino who is trying to thwart Donald Trump before he ever gets in office. That's just not happening. And that kind of nonsense has to stop. We've got to start focusing on, if we're going to go after the bad guys, we need to make sure we know who the bad guys are, right? And we've got to just stop assuming that everyone who has anything even remotely critical to say of the people that we like or the people that we support, that they're immediately a bad guy. Thomas Massie is probably, in my opinion, one of the greatest congressmen that we've ever had. He is a champion for liberty. He has fought tooth and nail to claw back some power for the American people in the House of Representatives. But he's voted a few times on things that I didn't like the way he voted. I didn't like the way he voted on a couple of continuing resolutions in the past. I didn't like some of the votes that he made for out of control spending on various things. But that doesn't make Thomas Massie a bad guy, and doesn't make Thomas Massie a bad congressman who we need to get rid of. It just means that he doesn't always 100% agree with me. And something that I have said for years when I was in radio, that I've talked about as long as I can remember talking about politics, something that I've said is, don't agree with me 100% of the time. If you do, you've joined a cult. You're not in a political party. You're not a part of some political movement. If you agree with me 100% of the time, some idiot on the radio or some idiot on the internet or whatever, if you agree with me 100% of the time, you joined a cult. And I don't want to be a cult leader. I don't want to have anything to do with cult leaders. I want you to be an independent thinker. I want you to sometimes send me a text message and tell me that I'm an idiot. And when you text into this phone number down here, when you do that, and you say, you're an idiot because I can't believe you said that, and I can't believe you made such a stupid statement. Good. That's a good thing. Because it means you're thinking for yourself. That's part of the problem. We don't have enough people that are thinking for themselves in the political realm these days. We don't have people that are going, yeah, I really like Donald Trump about this, or I really like Donald Trump did that, but I didn't like it when he did this other thing. Good. That's exactly what we need, because we don't want kings, we don't want tyrants, we don't want emperors. We want leaders who will do what is best for the American people. And we're not always going to agree on what that looks like. We're not always going to agree 100% on what it looks like to determine what is best for the American people. Sometimes I'm going to think it's this. Sometimes you're going to think it's that. That's exactly what we need. We need healthy debate that we can come to a conclusion that, hey, you think this thing is best for the American people or for our country. I think this other thing is best for the American people or our country. And maybe we're both a little bit right, and maybe we're both a little bit wrong, but because we're able to and willing to have a legitimate conversation and a healthy and thoughtful debate about it, we'll be able to get to a point where we can decide together that maybe we both have some things that we need to come together on and find the better way by taking some of what you've come up with and some of what I've come up with and putting them together and making it better in the end. Now, sometimes you're just going to be an idiot, and I'm going to have to tell you you're an idiot and that what you've come up with is a bad idea. And sometimes I'm going to be an idiot, and I'm going to need you to tell me I'm an idiot and tell me that I need to come up with a better idea. And so the blind devotion to a personality, to an ideology, a belief system, the blind devotion so I posted earlier this week on Twitter. Let me see if I can pull this up here real quick. I posted earlier on Twitter this week about what I've started calling pick a side politics. So pick a side politics. I'm going to scroll down through X here and see if I can find this. I have to maybe go to my profile. But I came up with this idea, or this concept of pick a side politics is what I called it. And here I found it. Here's what I said. I said, one of the biggest problems with the political climate of the day is what I call pick a side politics. It seems that few people take the time to research and understand what they truly carry as deeply held beliefs. Instead, most people take the easy route and just pick a side. Then, whatever the leaders or influencers of their side tell them they are supposed to care about this week is exactly what they parrot out in any given discussion. When I got into radio 11 years ago, I considered myself to be staunchly conservative. I would now classify myself more as a conservatarian or a liberty focused conservative. And so don't fall victim to pick a side politics. Study and dig and research and make determinations as to what you hold to be your core values. Then live actively as if you believe that what you believe is really real. But also be willing to revise what you stand for in the event that you discover that your deeply held beliefs don't actually align with eternal truth. Right? Be willing to flex enough to go, yeah, I used to believe this thing. And now I've been given new information. And I no longer believe that thing to be accurate. That is a sign of intelligence. That is a sign of wisdom and understanding that we need in our political culture more. Instead of saying, well, I used to believe this thing, but the particular influencer of the day, my favorite movie star, my favorite singer, or my favorite politician, or my favorite football player, or whatever, has said that they believe this other thing, and I don't know if I want to believe something that they don't believe. Again, you joined a cult. Don't join a cult. Think for yourself. And one of the ways that this has become very obvious and evident, especially in the last couple of weeks, has been the rage, the absolute insane rage about Elon Musk, and how people are all upset that Elon Musk has some sort of influence or undue influence on society. It's actually kind of comical to see how people are melting down over this. And it's interesting that the same people melting down over Elon Musk having influence on society are mostly upset because they're losing their influence. None of them have ever really shown any care about doing what's right. Their outrage isn't about Elon Musk having influence. Their outrage is that they're losing their grip on control. People aren't mad that Elon Musk has influence. They're mad that they don't. That's really what it comes down to. All these people melting down on the House floor, shouting about Elon Musk doing this and Elon Musk doing that. They're not mad that Elon Musk has influence. They're not upset that Elon Musk is able to bend President Trump's ear in some way. They're mad that they don't. They're mad that they can't. So anytime you hear somebody screaming and hollering about Elon Musk this and Elon Musk that, just remember that about 5 years ago, they all thought Elon Musk was the greatest thing that's ever happened to this country and this world, because he was creating electric cars that were going to save us from the evils of the oil company. And he was building rockets that were going to take us to Mars because the climate was going to melt down and Earth was going to devolve into some useless wasteland of a planet. And we had no option for survival except Elon Musk taking us in his rocket ship to Mars. Those same people that were spouting that stupid nonsense are now spouting the stupid nonsense that Elon Musk is somehow an idiot, or he is somehow stupid and he's got all these bad ideas. It is shocking to me how quickly people simply fall apart because their chosen celebrity or their chosen talking head has told them that they're supposed to hate Elon Musk now. It's hilarious to see how absolutely and utterly asinine the impotent rage that has been spewing from so many of these people, thinking that it's funny calling Elon Musk dumb. I saw somebody actually posted on X earlier today that the post was something like, everything Elon Musk touches turns to crap. Really? He's literally the richest man in the world because the companies he's created have been so wildly successful that he is basically swimming in cash like Scrooge McDuck. Everything he has touched has been financially successful. Tesla, he didn't actually found Tesla. He bought it from somebody else. That's not necessarily accurate. He was one of the early investors. He took over as CEO early on, and it was his leadership that led Tesla into what it is today. The same with SpaceX. Maybe he didn't start it. Maybe he didn't build the rockets himself, but he was smart enough to hire smart people and give them a vision and move them in a direction to do things that people haven't been able to do previously. So I'm not saying you have to like Elon Musk. I'm not saying you have to think he's the greatest thing, because I've got some reservations with Elon Musk, just like anybody does. But what you don't get to do, like I said with Chip Roy, you can't call Chip Roy a rhino, and you can't call Elon Musk stupid. And the same is true from any of the other in the billionaire spaces, right? People, Jeff Bezos is a moron. Really? You know what Amazon is, right? Like, he started that in his garage. You don't get to call Jeff Bezos an idiot. You don't have to like him. You don't have to agree with him, but you don't get to call him stupid. Same with Bill Gates, George Soros, any of the other billionaires that you disagree with or do agree with. It doesn't matter. Those guys didn't get into those positions because they're stupid. And the same with Donald Trump. Again, you can hate Donald Trump with every fiber of your being, but what you don't get to do is say that he's stupid. He's clearly not. He said, well, his daddy gave him a loan of $1 million or $100 million. Okay, you're right. His dad gave him some money and helped him get into business. His dad was very well off, was a rich developer or whatever. But Donald Trump has created an empire around his name and his persona that no other human being in history has been able to replicate. Again, you don't have to like Donald Trump. You can think he's an arrogant know-it-all. You can say all kinds of terrible things about his character and all that, and fine. But what you don't get to say is that he's an idiot. He filed for bankruptcy 4 times. Yeah. And a couple of those times that was the whole plan all along. The story, I don't remember which hotel it was, but he bought one of these high-rise hotels in New York City. It was in disrepair. It was falling apart. I don't remember all of the details of the story, but it was in bad shape. And he bought it at a steal, and then spent an insane amount of money fixing it up. Like an absurdly inappropriate amount of money fixing this hotel up and getting it back into shape. Knowing from the very beginning, because he understood the laws and he had the attorneys and everybody that knew how this stuff, knowing from the very beginning that in the end he was going to file bankruptcy and get out from under the debt that he had buried himself under in order to make this hotel work. And it is now very profitable because he knew from the very beginning that was the plan. Now, again, ethical, unethical, appropriate, inappropriate, that's for economists and developers and bankers and all those kind of people to discuss. The laws are the laws. It's just like the same thing when people use the tax laws to benefit them in certain ways by getting write-offs and things like that. It's not unethical if it's designed, if the system is designed that way and you're simply using the system to your benefit. Now, we can talk about whether or not the system needs to change, whether it's the right way to do things, all of that stuff. And that's all legitimate, and that's all a fair discussion to have. But the people who are smart enough to know how to use all of those loopholes and all that kind of stuff, the one thing you don't get to do is call them stupid. Because they're not. And there was many years ago, I think it was George W. Bush. I've never been a big fan of George W. Bush, but one of the things that he talked about in in discussion of his like cabinet members and things like that, a reporter asked him something along the lines when he was running for president, something along the lines of well, what do you know about this? What do you know about foreign policy, or what do you know about whatever it was? I don't remember what the topic was. And George W. Bush's answer was actually one of the few times he made a really good um, sentient point. He said, "I don't need to know. I don't need to know about that. That's why I have cabinet secretaries. They're the ones that know those things. They come to me and give me the information. And then with their advice and their wisdom, we come together along with all of the other people in the cabinet and we make a decision. I don't need to know everything." As this is one of the problems in the corporate world right now. Imagine, say, a welding company, a metal manufacturing fabrication shop where they build metal parts and things like that, right? You've got a guy on the floor who's the best welder on the floor. He's fast. His welds are good and solid and clean, and he is able to produce twice as much as any other welder on the floor. And so we immediately think, oh, he's the best welder. He does the best job. We should promote him to be the manager over all the other welders. The problem is he's a terrible manager. And he shouldn't be in charge of people because he's grumpy and he's angry all the time and he doesn't know how to relate to people and on and on and on, whatever. No, he's not necessarily the best guy for the job. But this other guy down the way, he's not really a very good welder. In fact, he probably shouldn't even be a welder, but he went to school and just barely made it through the welding school and learned how to weld. But you know what he's really good at? He's really good at managing people. All the other welders on the floor like him, even though they laugh at him for not being a very good welder. They know he's a nice guy. They know he cares. They know he knows how to manage processes and do all of those things. And so, yeah, he sucks as a welder, but he's a really good manager of other welders because he knows enough to know what welders have to go through to get their job done. He knows what tools they need. He knows what resources and materials they need. And he's really good at organizing all of that and making it happen. And so this belief that just because someone is good at a thing means that they're good at everything is ridiculous. Now, I've kind of lost my train of thought here, got off on a tangent there. But I do have to say that there is this level of just absolute absurdity. The people coming back all the way around, the people that try to claim that, Elon Musk is somehow dumb or stupid, that Vivek Ramaswamy is unintelligent, or even Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Again, I don't really care what you think of him. He's a crazy, wacko leftist environmentalist, or he's, the best choice for the Health and Human Services Secretary, or whatever. Again, you don't have to agree to any of that. But what you don't get to do is call him stupid. RFK Jr. is actually a very intelligent man. He's been a very, very capable attorney over the years, and graduating law school, even, you know what they call an attorney that graduates from law school at the bottom of his class and then barely passes the bar exam, but makes it through? You know what they call them? They call them attorneys. Right? The old saying, C's get degrees, right? You don't get to be where some of these people are. Vivek Ramaswamy's worth $500 million. He built several medical technology companies and was very successful. And a lot of these people are all very successful. So you can disagree with them, you can dislike them. What you don't get to do is say that they're stupid. Now there are some. Who was the guy? He's from Missouri, I think, or I think it was Missouri. I'm not sure. Hank somebody or another. He thought Guam was going to tip over if we put too many troops on Guam. That the island was going to capsize. That guy's probably stupid. Just saying. Anyway, again, the text messenger or the text line there at the bottom of the screen if you want to join the show, 501-830-1880, 501-830-1880. A couple of text messages. In one text that says, very well said. The hardest part of being involved in politics is being consistent with your view. There's no way a single party can express one person's belief. Look at the left. The fact they suddenly believed in so many off the wall stuff proves they're a cult. And it's almost criminal how half the country has had their brains stolen from them. Well, yeah, and I mean, look, the left's a great example of that. How insane that is, right? Because you can go back, and it wasn't that long ago. You can go back and watch video of Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama and Bill Clinton and Joe Biden and so many of the other, even Nancy Pelosi, the prominent leading leftist figures in the Democrat Party, that just a few years ago we're talking that, marriage is between a man and a woman, and we need this. And I believe it was under the Clinton administration that they signed the Protection of Marriage Act. Right? That they said we acknowledge that marriage is between a man and a woman. Now here we are just 8, 10, 12 years later. And I mean, marry your dog, marry your tree, marry your whatever you want, and we'll all pretend that it's real and consistent with reality. Right? I saw some girl talk about she's trigender. She's male, female, and some other non-conforming version of gender. I mean, and the left buys into it and plays into that craziness as often as they can. So yeah, no, you're absolutely right. It really does kind of show that they've almost become a cult. Text said it was Hank Johnson from Georgia that said that they were worried about Guam tipping over. Yeah, I forgot about that. I knew it was Hank somebody or another. Let's see. There was one other text. One text just says, why do birds fly south of Christmas? I'm assuming you mean why do they fly south for Christmas? There's I feel like, I think this is the joke. This is the joke. Oh, this is Galvin. I missed it. Galvin, why? Okay, Galvin, you have to tell me why. So for those just tuning in and those that maybe don't know the history behind Galvin is the official joke teller of the Schmidt Show. So when I was still doing radio, Galvin started calling in on Fridays, and once a week, Galvin would call us with a joke. Galvin, I think he said he is 11 years old. And he's 11 years old, and Galvin would be the regular joke teller, and so Galvin has the joke of the week already. So Galvin's joke is, why do birds fly south for Christmas? So Galvin, I could probably Google it and find the answer, but you have to text in and tell me, Galvin, what is or why do birds fly south for Christmas? One texter asked this as we're waiting for Galvin to get back to us. Did you hear about the terrorist attack in Germany today? Yes, I did. I've not been, I just saw it literally probably half an hour before I came on the live stream here. And I've seen some of the video from it. It looks like a terrorist driving through a crowd of people. I don't know what the details of it are. I don't know if it's, Islamic terrorism or anything like that. I just don't know what the dexters are, but yes, I have seen it. I just haven't had time to really dig into it and find out more of what's going on with it. So, Texter says Galvin says it's because it's too far to walk. Why do birds fly south for Christmas? Because it's too far to walk. I love it, Galvin. Thank you so much, Galvin. I'm glad that you're still following the show and paying attention to us, even though we're kind of inconsistent with our timeline. I love it. I will always do my best. I need to put your contact information in here though. And so I recognize next one. next time that you are Galvin. I'm putting it in right now so I don't forget. Let's see, Galvin, and the label is official joke teller of the Schmidt Show. All right, added. I think. I hope. I think I added it. All right, I think we got it. Anyway, because it's too far to walk. That's good. Anyway, 501-830-1880 is the number, 501-830-1880 if you want to join the show, share your thoughts or have any questions for us. One texter says this: if you hang out with Galvin long enough, do you become galvanized? That's good too. That's really good. That's pretty clever. Anyway, the other thing I wanted to get to today is the shutdown of the government. So I had a very frustrating and genuinely just irritating conversation about this whole issue of people upset that the Republican Party stripped $190 million of pediatric cancer research out of the funding bill. Now, it may come as a shock to people, but pediatric cancer research is not a legitimate function of the federal government. I know that sounds cold, right? But step back for a second. Step back away from how you feel. Step back away from your emotions and think through what this really means. Think through what it really means when we start talking about the federal government funding pediatric cancer research. Because yes, absolutely 1,000,000%, we should be funding pediatric cancer research to the highest level that we can. But it should not be the federal government doing it. The Constitution does not authorize the federal government to be that funding source. So two things can be true at the same time. Pediatric cancer research should be funded, absolutely, but not by the federal government. Both of those things can be true. And so in trying to explain this to this individual on X, the question was asked, well, who do I think should fund cancer research? And it's a simple answer: private entities, charities, corporations, foundations, wealthy individuals, like-minded groups of people making small donations. The list goes on and on and on. If the government's going to be involved in it at all, it should be at the state level. Because the federal government, the Constitution of the United States does not allow for the federal government to be involved in that funding source. They just don't. The 10th Amendment specifically says that's a state's issue. If it's not specifically laid out in the Constitution, it's up to the states. State's job. Period. So yes, these private entities should fund it. And the texter or the individual that I was arguing with on X, which shows I'm probably dumber than most, that I'm actually willing to argue with people on social media, asked the question: why would private entities want to fund cancer research? What's in it for them? Nothing. That's the point. That's why it's called charity. I donate to all kinds of things from which I receive no personal benefit. People do it all the time. The fact that the individual that I was discussing this with didn't understand that or didn't grasp that concept is shocking to me. Asking the question, well, why would somebody want to donate to a cause? What's in it for them? Nothing. That's the point. My wife and I sponsor a couple of kids through World Vision, through these, feed a kid, for the price of a cup of coffee a day, whatever, right? We do a couple of that. We don't get anything from that. There's no personal benefit to us or to us for it. We just do it because it's something that we believe is important to do. Giving to church, giving to charities or causes or veterans associations or whatever. People do it all the time. In 2022, right? This is the other thing. It's evil corporations. They will never do that kind of stuff. In 2022, a pharmaceutical company in Denmark, a Danish pharmaceutical company, was the number two. I believe it was number two. I might have been wrong. I think it was number two um, charitable organization or charitable corporation, I should say, in the world, donating somewhere around $1.3 billion to charity throughout the year. Goldman Sachs, right? The evil Goldman Sachs. Now, again, you're not going to find a whole lot of love for me for huge financial companies and all that kind of stuff. But Goldman Sachs in 2022 was reported to have donated somewhere around $2 billion spread out among 9,000 different charities. So people donate to things all the time. And guess what? If the government's not stealing your money and forcing you to give it to other people, maybe you'd be more charitable and more generous as well. But what reality is, the real truth of all of this is that most of these people are just lazy. They're just being, they're taking the easy way out. They're simply saying, look, it's hard work to donate to people. It's hard work to get other people to donate. It's hard work to get people encouraged or incentivized to be generous. And so they just take the easy way out. And the easy way is simply allowing the government, through the threat of force, to steal from their neighbor and then give that to someone else to a cause that they believe is the right cause. So, no, funding for pediatric cancer research should not be in a continuing resolution for the United States federal budget. And it's not because I don't want to fund children's pediatric cancer research. It's not because I want children to die of cancer or anything like that. If you want to fund cancer research, get together with your friends and start a foundation that funds it. Like St. Jude or the American Cancer Society, the Shriners, or 1,000 other organizations. Heck, I would probably even join you. I've donated to St. Jude's in the past. I've donated to the Shriners in the past. I've gone to the Shriners Circus for the sole purpose of knowing that buying a ticket to the Shriners Circus meant that children's cancer research was going to be funded. But what you don't get to do, again, is sit in front of your computer and scream about how greedy everyone else is when the only thing you've ever done to fund any of this stuff is cheering for the government to take money from your neighbor and give it to someone that you think is appropriate. It's just lazy. That's all it comes down to. I don't want to be generous, but I want you to think that I'm generous. So I will say that I think cancer research should be funded, even if you have to take the government at the end of a barrel of a gun and steal money from my neighbor to make sure that they give money. That's not generosity. It's evil and it's lazy. And we need to stop pretending that it is generous or compassionate or caring. The reality is the people that are willing to fund stuff privately, the people that are willing to fund stuff through private measures, giving out of their own pocket and their own effort and their own research, are much more generous. Much more generous than anyone who cheers as the government kicks in your front door because you refuse to pay taxes on this, that, or the other, and steals your home and drags you out of your home in handcuffs. Going, yeah, rich people need to pay taxes. It's not generous. You're greedy and you're evil. Get over yourself. If you want to fund cancer research, go fund cancer research. Well, I can't do it by myself. Yeah, you're right. You can't. Neither can St. Jude's. St. Jude's raised in 2023. St. Jude's raised over almost $2.5 billion to fund cancer research. One organization raised $2.5 billion to fund children, specifically pediatric cancer research. There's $5 billion spent globally, annually, for cancer research, like all cancer research. We spend somewhere around $5 billion on cancer research globally every year. So St. Jude's, one single organization, raised half of the money that was spent on cancer research. Half of all the organizations, they all by themselves. So if you want to fund cancer research, good, go fund cancer research. Get involved with St. Jude. Get involved with the American Cancer Society. Get involved with the Susan G. Komen Foundation. And go raise money. Go knock on your neighbors' doors and ask them for a donation to whatever cancer foundation or research organization that you think is worth it. That's generous. That's putting in your own effort, your own work. And it's proof that you actually care and actually believe. Sitting in front of your computer screaming at me because I don't want the government to come to your house and steal your money and give it to the things that I think are appropriate. I mean, look, I'm hardline pro-life. I've taken a stance on pro-life that is probably stronger than most modern conservatives. And if I said to you that we need to fund crisis pregnancy centers, Christian-based crisis pregnancy centers that avoid abortion at all costs, we need to fund that. And I think the government should fund it to the tune of $500 million every year, using taxpayer dollars to fund crisis pregnancy centers. Would you agree to that? Now, many of the listeners to the Schmidt Show absolutely would. But a lot of the people that are also screaming about pediatric cancer research not being funded would say, no way, we got to fund Planned Parenthood and abortion, blah, 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 let's kill babies. Right? How dare you suggest that we defund Planned Parenthood and fund crisis pregnancy centers? Well, how dare you say we should fund cancer research, pediatric cancer research, but not my pet project, whatever it is? Some rare disease that my third cousin's dog's brother's uncle had. And I think it needs to be researched. Well, the government should pay for it. Don't you care about my third cousin's brother's dog's uncle? Why are you such an evil, horrible person for not caring about my third cousin's uncle's dog's brother? Right? I mean, it's such an idiotic and nonsensical viewpoint to say, well, you have to fund this thing with the government because I said so. Okay, well, there's a lot of people that think a lot of things should be funded. Who gets to make that decision? You in your ivory tower thinking that you are the arbiter of what is good and right and just? Doesn't work like that. You don't get to make those decisions. Because it's always going to be wrong. I don't get to make those. I shouldn't get to make those decisions. Because I'll always be wrong. I'll never fund all of the things the right way. That's why the founding fathers didn't put any of this stuff in the Constitution. Because it's not the job of the government to do that. It's not the job of the federal government to be involved in that stuff. It's our job as citizens. It's our job to do what is right by our neighbors. And if funding for cancer research, for pediatric cancer research is so important, and I believe it is, and I believe we should be funding it, I just don't think it should be the federal government doing it. I think it should be you and I donating to St. Jude's and donating to the American Cancer Society and donating to whatever other organization that is raising money to fund pediatric cancer research. I just don't think the government should be allowed to come to your house under threat of force, violence, and locking you in a cage to fund it. Because that's what you have to understand. Everything that the government funds is funded through taxes, which are, in the end, imposed upon you and I at the threat of force. If you don't pay this thing, we're going to throw you in jail. If a business doesn't pay their regular, taxes for uh, payroll or sales tax or whatever, at some point, a government agent is going to show up and someone is going to go to jail and be locked in a cage away from their family, separated from their kids, all of those things, if they refuse to pay those or simply maybe not even refuse, but just don't know the how and didn't do the right one or pay the right thing. Because the tax code was too complicated, they end up in jail. The end of every tax, if the government decides you didn't do it right or do it right enough or pay enough or whatever, someone shows up at your home with a gun, puts you in handcuffs, and locks you in a cage. That is every single tax there is. And so funding charities like that is not, it's not charitable, it's not generous. It's evil. And so if the government wasn't doing all of this stuff and wasn't spending $6 trillion a year and then collecting only $4 trillion in taxes, we would all have so much money we wouldn't know what to do with. And we'd be able to fund this stuff at probably greater levels and more effectively and more efficiently than the government ever could dream of. So anyway, that's my rant for the day. The shutdown, as far as the government goes, shut it down. Shut it down. Shut it down. Honestly, the best thing that could happen to the American people is that the federal government takes a few months off. Honestly, if the federal government just took a few months off, we'd probably all be in better shape. Let's see. Texter says, if you're interested, Union Pacific is still hiring a few more people, or so they told us. They're looking for crafts and FNOs, laborers, like fuel rack job you had. Oh yeah, well that's so. There's a lot I'm looking at. Those are some of the things that I am considering. I'm trying to find. It's a really long story. I'm not going to get into right now, just because I'm running out of time, and the wife and I have a company Christmas party for her company we've got to go to. So, but yeah, I appreciate that. I will definitely be looking into that. Texter says, what are the beauties of the way? One of the beauties of the way the founding fathers set up the Constitution and the founding documents was simply the fact that they didn't write incomplete power for themselves. They left it in the hands of the people. Yes, 100%. Exactly right. That is one of the beauties of the founding documents of the Constitution. Is that it did not encompass everything. That they were able to go, yeah, we don't need to be involved in this. We don't need to have this power. We don't need to have this ability to reign and rule over the people. They can handle this stuff on their own. And they should handle this stuff on their own. And it goes back to the tariffs. Everybody, we could never do government with tariffs. There's never enough money in tariffs, and we'll all have to pay the tariffs anyway. Yeah, but at least it's voluntary, first of all. And second of all, we did fund the government through tariffs up until the early 1900s. And then, of course, Federal Reserve and all that crazy nonsense. That's how we funded the government. The problem is the government, it's not that there's not enough money in tariffs. It's that the government spends too frickin' much. That's the problem. It's not that there's not enough money in tariffs to fund the government. It's that the government has gotten too big. It's that the government is so out of control that it's gotten to where it has to start consuming itself in order to continue or to function. And eventually, all that self-consumption and all of that bloatedness is going to destroy us. So absolutely, let's go to tariffs. Let's get rid of the income tax. Let's get rid of all of this stuff and go back to tariffs. But in order to do that, it's going to require a massive, massive reduction in the size and scope of government. And that's one thing Republican, Democrat, or any other mainstream political party is never going to do. These people are never going to vote themselves out of power. They're never going to willingly limit themselves in any way, shape, or form. So that's really the catch-22. That's the danger. It's not that there's not enough money. It's that the government spends too much. It's not a revenue issue. It's a spending issue. And with that, I will wrap up the show. We will call it a day. We've done almost an hour. And it's, again, I've said this before, it's strange to do an hour of extemporaneous speaking without any sort of breaks, commercial breaks or potty breaks or any of that kind of stuff. So with that, we will call it a day. I've been trying to think of a way to wrap up my shows, because everybody that does these shows, they have some sign off or whatever. And so one that I used to use when I first got into radio, I may have to resurrect. And I used to sign off my shows when I first started in radio. I said, drive fast, take a lot of chances, because speed kills and only good die young. Merry Christmas, everybody.